Alright fellow sim racers, hold on tight because we are about to kick things up a notch. This isn't just a rerun of our T818 review, but we are juicing things up, throwing in a few new twists and a little bit of a long-term review as well. This time, it's the Thrustmaster T818 Ferrari SF1000 Simulator Edition. Functionally, it's the exact same base, with the addition of the Rosso Corsa Ferrari red and the most iconic logo in the entire world. In addition to that, it includes the best steering wheel that Thrustmaster has ever made, the one-to-one replica of the 2020 SF1000 Formula One car. This bundled package goes for a price of $1,099, and that includes the desk mounting kit as well. The T818 base is PC only, meaning it has no console compatibility, even when matched with the SF1000 rim, which with other bases would have that compatibility. I'm Sean Cole, your crew chief on this exhilarating ride as we explore the new Thrustmaster T818 Ferrari SF1000 Edition. The excitement builds as we unbox the Thrustmaster T818 Ferrari SF1000 simulator. The packaging is slick, and as we crack it open, you'll immediately notice the attention to detail that Thrustmaster is known for. Inside the main box are three more boxes, the first being the desk mount, which I won't be needing, the next being the SF1000 wheel rim, and then finally the T818 Ferrari Edition base itself. The base is a little more exciting than the standard 818 base, and it damn well better be because you're basically paying $50 just for that coloring and logo. Now let's take a moment to talk about the Ferrari branding. And you could think of it almost like the cherry on top of your sundae. It's not necessary, but it's oh so satisfying. Now if you think about it, there are thousands of people out there who've spent thousands of dollars building elaborate man caves, Ferrari branded man caves, or Ferrari game rooms or garages, or sim racers out there who've dialed in on the iconic branding of Ferrari for their sim racing rooms. And anytime you see that Rosso Corsa red, anytime you see that Ferrari emblem, you just know it reeks of racing, it reeks of speed. And admit it, we've all wanted over-the-top game rooms just like that. The T818 base is a direct drive wheelbase that produces 10 Newton meters of power. It is the exact same casing as the standard T818, same plastic body, same hexagon shape, same, with the one exception being the Ferrari. The top side panels are where all the Ferrari branding of this wheel are done, the coloring and the logo on the left-hand side. And they are interchangeable, just like the original T818. Not that you would get rid of these if you actually bought this version. It also has the same stylish mesh screen at the front, surrounded by the changeable color LED hexagon, giving it that Tron-esque vibe. It also features the same new quick release that is made of reinforced plastic. It has a wireless connection to any of the wheels in the Thrustmaster ecosystem, utilizing the new T818 adapter that is included with the base. Additional adapters can be purchased for $35 for those with multiple Thrustmaster wheel rims. This wheel is fully backward compatible with that adapter. On the back of the base is a connection point for the power, along with the power button, a USB connection to the PC, and a plug-in for Thrustmaster pedals such as the TLCM. And then two mystery ports that in the manual say are for future functionality coming soon. What could that be? Now let's go deeper into the unboxing and pull out the wheel rim. Oh my god, just look at that Ferrari SF1000 wheel rim. It's a one-to-one replica of the real deal from the 2020 F1 car. It is built on a 3mm thick carbon fiber faceplate, with its most prominent feature being that 4.3-inch full-color LCD display. The display is surrounded by LED lights, with a 15-light rev bar across the top and 3 lights down each side for Marshall's flags. The wheel has 11 buttons, each clearly labeled with common racing functions. It has 7 encoders, including 2 nicely placed directly at your thumbs. The SF1000 has the push-pull rocker shifter mechanism that is all made of metal, as well as 2 additional clutch-style paddles below them. The wheel is what I like to call a bullhorn shape, with 2 handles that are open on the bottom. These grips are made of high-density rubber that is made of 2 pieces front and back with a little bit of ergonomic shaping to them. And that takes us to the plastic parts of the wheel. The back cover, like many high-end wheels, is actually made of plastic. However, so are the mounting location for the shifters, which does remind us that this is only a $350 wheel rim. Also made of highly reinforced plastic is the common Thrustmaster threaded connection system for all previous bases. And that takes us to the quick release. The base had included with it the new screw-on adapter to the new quick release system. This 2-piece adapter plugs into the wheel and then has a collar that screws onto it, holding it down. There's also a set screw to hold everything in place permanently. Now, was this easy to install? Hell no, it wasn't. I had to use some serious G.I. Joe grip to get the collar all the way down. I actually took it on and off a few times just to make sure I wasn't messing anything up. In the end, it all went on well and it was functional. We'll come back to that later, but let's move on so we can get down to driving. Also included with the T818 Ferrari SF1000 simulator is the desk mount for the wheel. I don't actually use a desk for sim racing, so I didn't use it, but it will be nice for those who need it. The T818 base has a very unusual bolt pattern that likely means you're going to need to drill holes in your rig for mounting. Or you could use the supplied desk mount if that's the route you're going. I actually opted for the Thrustmaster cockpit mount, which is an extra $40, but it made it very easy to mount to my R seat. When it comes down to the software installation, usage, and even firmware updates, it doesn't get any easier than Thrustmaster. You download the software and you install it. Then follow the instructions for firmware updates and you're up and running. They even give you full color diagrams of suggested mapping for buttons and the default ones for games like the Formula 1 franchise. When it comes down to driving with the T818, we can throw out all the specs, we can throw out all the branding and all the Ferrari love, because it really comes down to how does it drive. You're not going to see any of that fancy stuff once you're out on track. At 10 Newton meters, the T818 is a legitimate middleweight in the overall scale of today's bases. And for me, the wheels in this group from 8 to 15 Newton meters are the sweet spot. More than enough power without breaking the bank. The T818 is a strong base, and it is capable of force feedback much higher than I actually like to drive with. I would also say that it is higher than most cars would even develop on track. This weight to strength ratio also translates into a very smooth turning wheel that has no noticeable built-in friction. This means the wheel is very quick and has very accurate force feedback by the time it reaches your hands, with so little filters getting in the way. It also allows for great counter steering without too much rotational force fighting you beyond the force feedback. This wheel embodies a duality that's nothing short of breathtaking. It's a powerhouse that flexes its muscles with the authority of a sprinting athlete, yet it's also an artist's brush that delicately paints the finest strokes of feedback onto your racing canvas. Now, I did review this base on its own about 4 months ago as the other color variation, and I did cover all my thoughts and feelings about how the force feedback actually worked on the wheel. But here we are 4 months later, and I'm still blown away and amazed at the great force feedback delivery. It is a solid wheel, and it feels great while out on track. I love the way Thrustmaster orchestrated the interpretation and implementation of the effects being sent from the game. I can tell you that with any of the big companies right now, like SimMagic, Moza, or SimuCube, that if you spend the time to really dial in the settings, that you can get a perfect feel out of most sims. This can take lots of testing and time to get right, but there are a lot of settings to adjust. With Thrustmaster, there isn't much to adjust, and that is okay, because out of the box, their settings are the best. Now, am I saying that the T818 has the best force feedback in the world? No. I am not saying that. What I am saying is that without adjustment, the T818 gets you out on track and comfortable faster than any other wheel. Can you say plug and play? When I focus on the SF1000 wheel rim itself, I have to admit I get really happy. It's kind of hard to imagine that a wheel this nice retails only for $350. The rim itself is very stiff from the faceplate all the way through to the shifters. It is also very good looking and highly functional. The grips are a touch harder than I would like for rubber grips, but I suppose that will be good for long-term wear. Their shape was comfortable and that helped out for longer driving. I also really like the push-pull shifters. There are times when I am fully turned and it is actually easier to push with the opposite hand rather than the normal action of pulling it in to shift. The shifter's distance and resistance is good and has a good tactile confirmation of engagement. The lower paddles are adequate and they get the job done, but there's really nothing special about them. But now let's talk about the front side of the wheel, which I mentioned is gorgeous. I love the big buttons with the little buttons and all of the dials thrown in. They all have good feelings, and again, as I operate the wheel, I'm blown away by the quality for the money. All of the buttons and dials feel like high performance or high-end components. Now when it comes to the dials on the wheel, it is kind of interesting. The top three only operate the dash or display. The left-hand dial changes between types of layouts, and the right one then changes the variations of those layouts. And you can click on that one to switch them from light to dark mode. It's pretty cool that you can do all this on the fly in most games. The center Ferrari dial actually does work with the dash as well. It's one of the adjusters for the dash, but I really wish it did more. It does very little when you're on the PC, and that's a big bummer to me, I will admit. But you can adjust the display brightness. So if I come down here to brightness, I can actually use the dial to make things dimmer or brighter, but again, I wish it did just a little bit more. Despite the wheel dedicating those three dials to the dash alone, I still had more than enough buttons and dials to work with and was able to map every single control I possibly wanted to my wheel. The two rotaries by the thumbs are really convenient, and when I combine them with the three buttons on each side, I have 5 controls at each thumb without releasing my hands whatsoever. The dash itself is brilliant, and some of the layouts are really cool, and it's nice that you have so many to choose from without having to install any third-party software. I didn't have to do anything to configure the dash, and it worked in all of the games I tested it with. It was also very cool being able to just turn that dial and have a different dash to look at. And if you don't like seeing the dash, well, you can flip the silver switch and it just turns it all off. We talked about the T818 base not only today, but in that previous show 4 months ago. And today we've covered the SF1000 wheel and all of its great details. But what about the sum of all the parts? What about the package or the combo together? And I'll tell you, one of the complaints I did have in my first test, I was using the TGT wheel rim, and I did notice a lot of flex. And you'll see there still is some flex in the system, but it is certainly less than it was with that lesser round wheel compared to the carbon fiber plate of the SF100, making this a much stronger wheel rim. Now, I also did sort of have like a love-hate relationship with the quick release itself. Let me take a glove off here. And what I do love is its simplicity. It's so easy to use and you don't have to put a lot of effort into it, and it is awesome. However, it does have a little bit of flex. So when I compare this to like an NRG or a QR1 type quick release that have no flex whatsoever, it's going to emphasize all of the flex points into either the steering shaft or the wheel rim itself. And with the T818, we kind of see a little bit of that flex all the way from the wheel to the base. Now, with that said, it is such a smooth turning wheel that if you're turning the wheel in the proper direction, the way it's intended to move, if you have your wheel at the right distance and the right angle, there's really no reason that you would be putting those kind of forces on the wheel. So I don't feel like that flex is in any way, shape, or form coming back to haunt the delivery of force feedback or the quality of feel of the T818 combo with this SF1000 wheel. Now, with that said, we've heard rumors of a new focused on the T818 base wheel rim that will be available hopefully by the end of this year, and that could be a game changer for this combination. With all that clarified, I have to say that I do love this combination. It offered me a great amount of realism, a great amount of immersion, and it did all of that without any headaches. I didn't have to download any third-party software or become a mathematical engineer to figure out how to dial in all the settings. Plugged it in and it just worked. 5 minutes later, I was up and running. It just doesn't get any better than that. So I think that tells you everything that you need to know about the Thrustmaster T818 Ferrari SF1000 edition. But to make sure it's perfectly clear, let's point out the most important aspects with the good, the not so good, and the bottom line, starting off with the good, and that being, it's a great looking combo. Got to love Ferrari. Smooth turning wheel. Great force feedback delivery. Easy to use software. Wireless wheel connection. RGB lighting. Telemetry coming soon. Full color display. Change displays on the fly. Push-pull paddle shifters. Tons of mappable controls. Lots of add-on wheels to choose from. And now on to the not so good. There are a lot of plastic parts for a direct drive steering wheel. Stupid lockdown screw. Come on, Thrustmaster. More flex than most DD systems. No 818 level wheels yet. No side mounting options. No console compatibility. And now on to the bottom line. The Thrustmaster T818 Ferrari SF1000 simulator is a combination of the best of everything that Thrustmaster makes. The T818 base on its own is a very unique base, and it has really been a pleasure to drive with. It's not just unique in its look, but it's also unique in its force feedback delivery, making it quite a special wheel. And the SF1000 wheel rim, I have to say, it is hands down the best steering wheel that you can get for $350. It's just awesome, and the combination looks spectacular, and it backs up those looks out on track with the way it performs. Now, we could argue that it's a little expensive, and it is admittedly $100 more expensive than it needs to be. I'm not quite sure why they bundled the Ferrari branding with the desk mount, because that does raise the price by $100. So if you didn't need the Ferrari branding, which I think is super duper cool, you could get the regular T818 with the SF1000 wheel for $100 less. What this wheel brings to the table is ease of use like no other company is doing right now. And on top of that, the reliability of the Thrustmaster name. Now, do you remember when plug and play was the norm? Well, this wheel meets that criteria, and I hope it's a step in the right direction as Thrustmaster tries to re-emerge as one of the leaders in the sim racing world. So I hope you've enjoyed the review of the T818 Ferrari SF1000 Simulator Edition. If you did, be sure to give it a thumbs up. Be sure to subscribe to the channel so you can find out when our next video comes out, and thank you for watching. This is the Simpit. I'm Sean Cole, and I'll see you on the track.